Welcome to Camp and Camp's whirlwind tour of pre-modern history and herstory in 15 minutes or less, or your money back.
Really?
Imagine a world with no humans, a world that is one giant wilderness preserve. This is the world in which our story begins. Nobody is quite sure how we arrived on the scene, but most people agree that humanity arose in Africa some 100 to 200,000 years ago. These were not civilized humans as we know them today. They did not raise crops or domesticate animals or even stay in one place very long. No, hunter gatherer people go where the food is, not where other people are, so they tend to spread out a lot. In fact, before the first civilizations had sprung up in what today we call the Middle East, humans had spread to South Asia, Europe, North Asia, Oceania, and even across a land bridge to the Americas. Then, about 10,000 years ago, hunter gatherers in the Middle East discovered natural stands of wheat and barley. Unlike many other foods, these could be stored, they could be made into complex food products like bread and beer, and they could be reliably planted and harvested. They had discovered agriculture. They now had the ability to grow more food than required to live, meaning that some people didn't have to spend all their time obtaining food anymore. In other words, these surpluses of food freed up some people to specialize in arts and technologies such as pottery and masonry and bronzeworking. Now, agriculture requires a settled lifestyle, so settlements sprung up, often along river valleys. More food means more people. Civilized people apparently like living with lots of other people, especially when they can share the work, so little settlements were succeeded in short order by the world's first cities. But what is civilization? It is a best selling computer game, but really, historians believe civilizations all share 7 characteristics: cities, hence civilization, job specialization, social class hierarchies,
Patriarchy!
religious institutions, art and architecture, government, record keeping, and eventually writing, and technological advancements. Yes, patriarchy. As women continued to raise the kids and rule the home, a few men had nothing better to do than dominate the world.
Smash the patriarchy!
In all seriousness, some of the job specializations were religion, politics, and warfare, often linked, and those jobs almost always went to men. History remembers 3 great river valley civilizations. One, between the Tigris and the Euphrates, Mesopotamia, city state government, large religious structures called ziggurats. Two, along the Nile River in Egypt, highly centralized government, large burial pyramids. And three, around the Indus River, the Indus Valley Civilization, also known as prehistoric India, a legacy of fancy temples, city planning, and even indoor plumbing.
Woohoo!
We think of China as one big country, but it wasn't always that way. There have been many small states and kingdoms and dynasties along the way to what you will learn about as modern China. Along the way, China invented many technologies we now rely on, created the world's first civil service exams, and built a lot of wall segments to defend against raiders from the north. While China and India were building up, the Middle East was conquered by a series of empires. First, the Assyrians tried to own the Fertile Crescent. They were soon taken over by the Babylonians. Major civilizations arose in Greece, Persia, and Rome as well. The Persians conquered all the land west of India up to the Greek city-states, but couldn't go any farther west. A few generations later, Greek-speaking Alexander the Great conquered all the land Persia had once owned, but then he died abruptly, and the so-called Hellenistic world broke into many smaller kingdoms. It wasn't long, however, before Rome took its turn and conquered North Africa, the Middle East, and all of southern Europe. Hundreds of years later, Rome had broken into many pieces, leaving the many warring kingdoms of West and Central Europe, the Byzantine and Persian empires in the East, and an Arab world ready to take its turn. We'll talk about the religion of Islam in our other video, Getting Religion in 15 Minutes, but Islam was also a political movement that took over almost the entire known world, with a few exceptions, Western Europe and China, and of course, the Americas. Traveling back in time to the end of the Ice Age, we find that the land bridge melted, leaving America isolated from the rest of the world by wide oceans, and leaving the first Americans to develop in much different ways than their Eurasian counterparts. Settled cultures developed in many parts of North and Central and South America. Some met the classic 7 characteristics of civilizations, such as the Incas and the Mayans, but many did not meet all the characteristics exactly.
Matriarchies!
And that just about sums up the world around 1,000 years into the Common Era. Your AP Modern World History class can take it from here. Thanks for your attention and happy learning.